They thought they could use me as their scapegoat, that I'd take the fall for their multi-million-dollar mistake. But what they didn't know was that I'd already planned for their betrayal. And when the truth came out, it wasn't my career on the line, it was his. If you've ever dealt with someone who underestimated you, or worse, tried to throw you under the bus just to save themselves, hit that like button right now. Because today's story is one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll hear, where arrogance met cold, hard justice. I was pushing 40, with over a decade of legal practice under my belt, when I finally learned why one piece of advice from an older lawyer had stuck with me all these years. Back when I was just a summer student, wide-eyed and naive, that mentor had leaned across his desk and told me, a lawyer has 3 duties. First, to yourself. Second, to the court. And last, always last, to the client. Because clients will you star. They'll throw you under the bus without blinking. At the time, I thought he was just being cynical, but I should have listened. Because years later, one arrogant client would put that lesson to the ultimate test. My client was a mid-sized company, not huge, but big enough to own a substantial real estate portfolio. One day, one of their buildings burned down. The insurance payout was worth millions. Frank was nearing 60, a veteran company man, and he was the type who believed he knew everything, especially more than the lawyers. He took pride in cutting corners, bragged about avoiding legal fees, and treated me like I was an unnecessary expense. Every time he called, he nitpicked my bills. Every time I offered advice, he brushed me off. You know the type, the smug penny pincher who thinks outsmarting the system makes him clever, not reckless. But insurance companies don't play nice. And Frank was walking straight into a trap. By pure luck, I even found out about the fire. Frank hadn't asked for my help. It slipped out in conversation. From that point on, I kept hounding him. Frank, the insurer's stringing you along. They're not going to pay unless we sue. He waved me off every time. You don't know that. I've got this under control. The adjuster and we get along great. I could feel my blood pressure spike every time he said that. Getting along with the adjuster meant nothing. They weren't his friend. They were stalling. The limitation period expires in 2 weeks. If we don't sue before then, it's game over. You'll lose everything. I even sent multiple emails, spelling it out in black and white. My last message said, I'm going into a trial. You won't be able to reach me, but you must sue. Use another firm if you have to. Just don't let the deadline pass. He ignored every single one. I started to think maybe, just maybe, Frank had been right. Maybe they paid out. Then my phone rang. Remember that fire insurance thing we spoke about? Frank's voice was strained. I assumed he was calling to gloat. So they paid? That's great, Frank. Guess you were right. Silence. Then he asked for a copy of the claim. What claim? I asked. And that's when it hit me. Frank hadn't sued. The insurer hadn't paid. The deadline was gone. He was sitting on a multi-million-dollar loss. And now, he wanted to pin it on me. Minutes later, my computer pinged. An email from Frank. It said he'd told me to sue. That he'd been waiting for me to file the claim. That he was just following up. My stomach turned cold. This wasn't incompetence anymore. This was betrayal. He was building a paper trail, trying to frame me as the lawyer who failed my client. But here's the thing. I had been ready for this. Months earlier, when I realized Frank was going to screw this up, I'd quietly done something bold, something risky. I'd filed the claim myself. Technically, lawyers aren't supposed to sue without a client's instruction. It puts us personally on the hook for costs. But I couldn't watch this clown tank the case. So I filed a bare-bones claim, just enough to preserve the cause of action. So when Frank tried to shove me under the bus, I had the receipts. I drafted a calm but cutting email back, CCing not just Frank, but his boss, his boss's boss, and the company's in-house counsel, Bill. Frank ignored repeated warnings. The insurer refused to pay, and now the limitation period is expired. But fortunately, I already filed the claim months ago. Bill called me almost immediately. His voice was tight with frustration. Frank messed up. We know he's an idiot. We confronted him, and his story doesn't add up. What do we do now? I hit him with the truth. Don't worry. I already sued. There was a pause. Then Bill practically shouted, You sued without instructions? Yes, I said calmly. And it saved you millions. I sent him a copy of the filed claim while we were on the phone. He let out a long sigh of relief. Thank God. You may have just saved the company. A few days later, I got another call. Not from Bill this time, but from someone else at the company. They told me Frank had been summoned to a meeting. Inside the boardroom, they handed him a one-page letter. Then security escorted him past his co-workers, down the elevator, and straight to the parking lot with his little box of office supplies. That was the end of Frank's career. At his age, there wouldn't be another. The man who tried to throw me under the bus ended up crushed beneath the very wheels he set in motion. His arrogance, his smug penny-pinching, his betrayal, it all caught up to him. And the sweetest part? I didn't even need to lift a finger in revenge. Justice played out naturally, because I was one step ahead. I tell this story sometimes to younger lawyers over beers. Not because I wanted revenge, but because it's a lesson. Clients will betray you if it means saving themselves. Always protect yourself first. And as for Frank, he became a cautionary tale. The perfect reminder that arrogance and greed almost always write their own downfall. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the most satisfying case of karma or revenge you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe, because there are plenty more stories like this, where arrogance meets justice.